Yeah. So we were talking about this class and how a class is structured. All right. So I've tried explaining how a typical class structure looks like, right? So we have properties here and we have behaviors, and then we have a special kind of behavior or a method which is called as constructor. And constructor property, or how the way constructor looks is, or how you're going to create that is, you have to give the same name of as the class, as its class. So if you have addition, then you have to give the same name, and it doesn't return anything, because if you put this into contrast to what this method here, it returns something. If you don't want to return it, if you don't want this method to be returning anything, you have to mark it as void, right? But in this case, I am returning the result of it. So this is a typical example of how a addition class of a class which performs addition looks like. Now here, if you see, this is how you're going to create the object. So if you notice, what I'm doing here is to create the object, I have to make use of new operator, right? So writing, I'm creating a variable and its type as addition. So I'm trying to create an object of this class. To create an object of this class, I'm going to say addition, the name of the class, then the name of the variable. This can be anything. It doesn't need to have addition, but this has to have this name, right? And then new, because it indicates that I want to create a new object. That is how you're going to create object inside Java. And again, the name of the class. Again, the name of the class is what you need to give here. Wait a minute, someone is trying to join again. This is the name of the class you have to give. And if you notice, I'm passing two values here. Now, if you remember, I talked about this constructor. This constructor is always gets triggered when you create a class. So since it doesn't have a default constructor, I'll talk about what default constructor is. Right now, what we have in this example is a parameterized constructor. So when you want to create certain object which has a parameterized constructor, you need to give its required arguments. So what I am passing here, 2 and 3, will get saved inside num1 and num2. Okay. Now these values num1 and num2 will be initialized by the value 2 and 3 the moment I create this object. All right. Now once I create this object, as soon as I do this, these values are saved in num1 and num2. And when I perform the operation on it, so when I say addition dot perform addition, like I call this method will be triggered and it will do its job. So its job is really result equal to num plus num2, which is the addition of these two numbers, which are already been set by this constructor in this step here. And once we do that, it will return the result. So in the result of addition, we'll have the value as the sum of 2 and 3, which equals 5, of course, right? So we'll see its practical example in explanation now. But before we do that, let me give you another example here. So all of that we'll try to do. So if I want to create a calculator program, I can just create a simple class. I'll say calculator app. I'll create the variables. I'll create the main method there. And I'll create two methods, addition and subtraction. And this is responsible for addition. This will be responsible for subtraction. And I'll call these methods here, addition, subtraction, and I'll print the result. Now this will also work. This also can be termed as a calculator application. But what it is not a object oriented programming design. So it is anti object oriented programming. Now Java doesn't necessarily ask you to create an object oriented programming design. It will give you, it has a features, it have mechanisms available. You can use it, you can choose to use it, or you don't choose it. Right now in this example, this will work properly. It will give you results, addition, subtraction, but it is not really an object oriented programming design. And we need to learn that, because it's very, very rewarding to use object oriented designing when you create a framework or any application, right? So how object oriented design of this calculator should be is what I am right now showing to you. We will create all of that, so not to worry if you're not getting this. We are going to create separate classes. Base class, one would be our base class where we will define something. Then we will have addition or subtraction created as a separate classes. So if you I put this into contrast to our one here, we had a single class, and each of these class we have created a separate methods, addition and subtraction, right? Here what I'm doing, I am creating a separate class for that behavior, right? And I'm trying to implement few of the object oriented programming concepts here, most important ones: encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism, right? Inheritance, you can easily understand when I say base class. Base class simply means it's a parent class, and I am making use of this parent class here in both of these classes. And if you notice, these number one, number num2, and result, if you notice here, these num1, num2, and results variables, I have, since these were common and I need not create them in both of these classes, I have brought that up to a base class. I have moved these variables which were common. I moved that separately and created a class for it and named it as base class, and I'm actually making use of it. So this is how I am reusing the code. I don't have to write these lines again and again in different operation classes, right? So in addition, you won't find number one, num2. You won't, in subtraction, you won't find num1 and num2, because I have moved them at the top, and this is how I am directly accessing it using a base class concept, right? Enough is enough. Now what we'll do is we'll jump onto our code here. So I have already created these classes for you, but I'm not going to make use of this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to show you exactly how you're going to create it. So instead of showing you a static example, let me show you how you will do it from scratch, so that you can also try it out in your own systems. So I'll repeat again. So we have to first create a project. So I think all of you have, because in the last classes we know how to create a project. If you have not tried it yet, you should do it, because that's a very fundamental thing. Without that, you will not be able to create any class or objects. So first of all, we go and create a project. We go to File, New, Java Projects. Don't do this. Always click Java Project. If you don't see Java Project here, you have to go to Other and search for Write Java, and you will click on Java Project. Now, next is you need to give a name up to the project. So here, let's say I'm giving a name as my calculator application. Let's say I'm giving this name. Here, it could be Java SE 12, Java SE 11 for you. It could be anything, but I am selecting Java 1.8 because that's the minimum which you need. I'm not going to go to select Java 12 or 11. It has some added functionalities, but I don't need it. I will stick to Java 1.8. Then I click on finish. Either you can click on next or you can say finish. As soon as you do that, you will get a project being created here. Right now I have many because these are my previous projects. If you're doing it for the first time, you're going to see a single entry called as my calculator application there. It will be, the project would be initialized with a Java library here. So all of the Java library, since you selected Java 1.8, it is showing Java 1.8 here. You will see a folder called as source. Inside this source, I will have to go and create a package. Package is nothing but a folder. So I'll go here, I'll say com dot, let's say vision it dot calc, finish, right? When as soon as I do this, it will create a folder structure inside, another folder structure inside my workspace. So inside my workspace, I will be having a folder structure called as my calculator application, inside which I would have a source folder. Inside that, I would have these com slash vision it slash calc folder. And now whatever class I'm going to create, that class will be located inside com.visionit.calc website. Sorry, calc folder structure. Now time is to create a class. I'll create a class. I will initialize it with public static void main, because right now we will create a simple class where everything will keep it inside a single class file. So now the name of the class can be calculator application, finish. Now I have a calculator application and have a method called as public static void main. If you're not very sure about this, what this public static void main is, understand it as an entry point of any program. So when you run a program, Java executor look for a method inside a class called as public static void main string array args. If it doesn't find it, your Java program will not execute. It will not do anything with that program. So you need, if you want to run something in Java, by the way, there are many ways of to run a Java program, but the simple way of doing it is using a method called as public static void main, right? Now when I do this, my purpose actually for creating the creation of this class is to create a calculator application, isn't it? So would need now I need to create few variables here. Like what I'm right now trying to do is to simulate this example, which is this one, right? So I'll say int num1, int num2, and int result, right? Now the thing is, this is called as declaration. This is its type. I can choose string as well here, by the way. String means it will take string, but you cannot really add a string. You need for addition, subtraction. This is mathematics, right? So you need to have integers or decimals. So decimals we are not taking into account as of now. We want to create a simple application which will only manipulate integers. So I will write simple int here, right? Now I will also have to create behaviors, isn't it? Because I want to create a calculator application. Calculator application has behaviors. Now, what are those behaviors? Minus, plus, multiplication, division. These are its behaviors. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can say these are its characteristics or properties. All right. So I need to create a behavior. To create a behavior, I need to specify certain, or I need to declare it and define it. So how I will do it? I will write public, means it should be accessible from anywhere. What do I mean by access by anywhere? We'll come to know more on it when we create more classes and packages. But right now, simply understand it's an access modifier. That means it can be accessed outside the class. Public, then I need to mention the return type. So if it is returning something, I will say um, give what type of value it will return. So I can say int. If it is not returning anything, I will say void. That means I don't want this method to return anything. Then I will write addition. I'm sorry. Addition, and I'll simply say num1. Sorry, I will say result is equal to num1 plus num2. So this will do the addition, and similarly, I can create another method called as subtraction. So I'll say subtraction, or I simply sub. And to make things simple, let me do a simple add and sub. Now this will do what? This will subtract it. If I want to call this, now nothing will happen if I just run this program. If I run this program, nothing will happen because these are just defined definitions of methods. I'm not invoking them anywhere because I need to invoke it to actually trigger the operation, right? So to invoke it, I will simply call add method and I will call sub method. Okay. Now it will give an error as of now because I'm calling them from within a method which is marked as static. What is a static? Again, something to do with Java. We'll learn about it. As of now, it's not that much required. All I could do to solve this is I can mark them as static as well. So everything has to be static because I'm calling them from a static method. All right. Now my program should work and I need to print the information as well. So I'll write sys out, which is a mechanism in Java to print values or as in which acts as an output. I will say the addition result is result, and same way I can say the subtraction part of it. The subtraction is right. Now if I run it, something is missing in this. So let me just run it and you will know what it is. So if I say run as Java application, what's the value is coming? 0, 0. Why? Because there is no value being defined inside this. Right now, I have only declared it, but I am not defining anything. So I need to initialize it as well. So I need to write num1 if num1 is 5 and num2 is, let's say, 10. And when I now run the program, the addition will be called, the addition method will be called. All right, so it has to be in the sequence. So first addition and then the subtraction part. So now if I go and run this, let me run it. Now it is showing the right result, which is the values here, where it went, sorry. So 15 and minus 5. So it is giving me right result, addition and subtraction. But as I said in the beginning, this is not an object-oriented approach, guys. This is not an object. This is procedural. You can say it's an procedural way of doing it. There are different procedural languages available. VB script, right? This is one of the example of procedural languages, which doesn't make much use of classes and objects. Right now, what you see is, even though we are writing this inside a class, it doesn't make it a object-oriented programming, right? To make it a truly object-oriented programming, we need to restructure it. Okay, so let me now restructure it, and we'll try to give it a form which looks something like this. Okay, and while I do it, you will also know few of the concepts when I try to implement it. Let me do it. So this is a simple example of calc. Now what I'll do, I'll create a separate class. I'll write here new package. I'll remove calc here, and I'll write here calc object oriented program approach. Finish. So what will happen? It will create a separate package here. Now I will start creating the classes here. So see guys, idea is simple. This addition, right now I have indicated or written it as a behavior, but I can also create it as a class, so that if I need to modify it later, I could do that. Right now, if I want to modify it, it's really big, will become difficult for me, because right now it only takes two values which can be uh, added. If I want to add multiple values, so I would need to create multiple methods, and if I keep on doing that, this simple class could become cluttered. Lot of methods of addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and different. If let's say if I want to implement scientific calculator, the same class, if you try to do that, it becomes very difficult to manage and maintain. It's not a very good approach. And the answer to answer those problems, we have an approach called as object oriented design. So now we are going to create what? We are going to create a class, but that class will be representing an operation. So right now we need to create two operations, for example, addition and subtraction. So we need to create two classes for it. So let me just do it. So if I go here, I will create, right click, I create a class. I will give it a name as addition. Finish. Then here I will say int num1. Maybe I'll just copy paste quickly. And this time I will not need the static things here. All right, now next is should be creating a constructor. So I will be creating a constructor here for this. Or before even creating constructor, let me tell you one more concept. So once you have some variables being created, these usually should be marked as private. Okay, this should be marked as private. Now this is a concept called as, you can say encapsulation, wherein you don't want these variables to be accessed outside. When I say outside, I will talk about what outside means, because now we are creating multiple classes. We don't want these variables to be accessed outside, but internally these can be accessed. I'll show you how. So when I say here, but that actually doesn't mean that we should completely block the access, right? If anyone want to access these variables, we need to provide certain methods called as getter and setters. If you want to set some values to this, you will create a setter for it. You want to create want to access this from outside, you want to create a getter method. So you need to do that. In Java, you have a way of doing it. So I'll right click and click on source, and here in the source you have a entry called as generate getters and setters. You click on it, and as soon as you do that, you get some window here. You select checkbox, you click yes on all checkboxes, create on generate, and if you see, it will generate the methods for you, something like this. Okay, so it has created this is a getter and this is a setter. How you will know? This is a method which returns the variable. So it is get num1. If someone calls get num1, it will return the value of num1. If someone calls set num1 and passes the value here as an argument, the variable here will get set with that value. So this becomes a setter, this becomes a getter. So in Java, this concept is somewhat called as encapsulation, which is you are encapsulating the details inside a class and you're hiding some information, the traits or characteristics of it. And if you want to, someone wants to access it still, you're going to provide them with the getters and setters, right? Now let me show you how that works. If I go to new class runner, finish, this becomes your application. Here I will just simply write how you will go and create the object of it. You will say addition, name of the object, addition object is equal to new addition. The object is created. Now when you say dot, something is not right, wait. Sorry, I should be supposed to be doing it inside a public static void main string. This line has to be inside this. You cannot keep a loose line of code anywhere in the class, right? So when I say addition here and dot, it will now show me what are the available methods which I can trigger on this object. So I can say get num1, get num2, or set num1, set num2. So I can call set num1, I will say 2, that I am setting the first number as 2. Then I will say addition dot set num2, I'm setting it as 5, for example here 5. Now this is where I have the opportunity to set the values from outside, right? Now if let's say, let me show you another way of doing it. So let's say I don't mark it as private, I will say public, and I will say public. So as soon as I do something as public, what will happen? I will write addition dot, and this number 1 and number 2, I am actually able to access it from outside. And this is not right. This is against object oriented principle called as encapsulation. You should not be exposing the properties of a class directly to the outside world. You are not supposed to do it. If anyone want to access it, they should be making use of these getter and setter methods instead of directly accessing the variables. So that's the reason. That is what I meant when I said this has to be private and should not be accessed outside. So if I mark them as private, let me just do that here, runner. So now I will not get those values here directly to be accessed. So I'll remove this. Now addition dot set num1, addition dot set num2. I'm setting these two values 2 and 5 to these variables. Now next thing I would need to do is to create an operation. Now operation here is simple, which is addition. So I'll write here public int. This time I want to return something. Perform add operation, and I will write here result is equal to num1 plus num2, sorry, num1 plus num2. And let's say don't want to return it as well. So I'll say void. I'll just do an operation result num1 plus num2. Next, what I'll do, I will do simple. I will write addition dot perform add operation. So now since I've created a method called as perform add operation there, I will simply write perform add operation. As soon as I do this, what will happen? These two numbers which are now added, which are now being initialized as num1 and num2, which is 2 and 5, which is here. So now since these are already being initialized 2 and 5, when this method is called, then this method will actually add 2 plus 5 and save that result inside a result operation, sorry, result variable. And in the outside, what I'll do, I will simply print this value, sys out, and I will write here int result of addition is equal to this. Oh, not this, sorry, I'm sorry, this is not returning anything. So I'll write here addition dot get result, because the value of that is now saved inside the result operation. And this get result, if I press a control and click on that method, it will take me inside the actual method, which is this method, and this is actually returning me this variable result, right? So now I inside result of addition variable whose type is int, I am getting the result of the addition, which is being returned to me by performed add ops. So now if I go and print this addition result, I will simply print this. All right, cool. So now if I go and run this runner, now I'm getting the result. Now same thing can be done with for the subtraction. So let me just quickly do it. So I'll write here subtraction. Okay. And subtraction also the similar concept will happen, but all I need to do is to the subtraction, I need to change some names, perform sub operation, and that's it. So I will go back into runner again, and now what I will do, I will create the subtraction. So here I am doing subtraction. So I'll have to create separate object called as subtraction. New subtraction and sub. I think the same methods will I have to call again. Only the name changed. Subtraction, 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 sub, and result of subtraction. Like this. All right, so if I now run this, again, run as Java application, it is not giving the same result. Let me see. Okay, because I'm not calling the right object here. So I need to call sub here. This is the problem when you copy paste blindly. So if I go and run as Java application, it will now give me the right result. Now this is somewhat better than what we had done earlier, called as calcap, everything in a single. This is something better, but this could still be made better, right? Because there are a lot of boilerplate code. Boilerplate code means code which is being repeated again and again. Here in this case, we have addition, and we have all of this being repeated again, right? Then inside subtraction, the same lines of code is being repeated again, right? So we are not really doing the reuse. We are not really applying the reusability concept here, right? What can be common here, right? Now all of this addition and subtraction. So if you remember what I talked about previously in the when I was talking about inheritance in the previous session, right? So inheritance, what you have to do is you need to generalize what can be moved to the top, what is common in across everywhere, and what can you can move so that you can reuse it. In this case, they all are operations, but there is something which can be reused here, something which is common to these values. What is common here? These variables. So these things are common. You really don't need to write this in all the operations. So imagine you have 50 operations. You're repeating the same line of code everywhere, which is not a good thing to do, right? So now we'll try to implement another concept of object-oriented programming called as inheritance. All right. Let me show you how to do that, and then you can actually go and try it out on your own. Okay. So I will do what? I will go and create. By the way, guys, are you getting what I'm trying to say? Are you getting it, or if it's you're feeling bored or something?
Yes, we are getting.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So let me just quickly show you that part, and then you can try it on your own, and maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow. So let me just quickly, because we are short of time. So let me just create another class now. I will create a class, and I will give it a name as, I can say base class. That's a very, very common name, generic name, or you can say calc operations. Or I will rather give it a better name. I'll give it a name as abstract calc operations. Now here I would keep some special kind of things, all right? A special kind of variables or maybe methods which are common. All right. What are the common things which are available in both the classes? Variables and these methods, isn't it? So I will just copy this. I will kind of cut it from here. I will go here. I will paste it here. Now all of this now would become part of a class called as abstract calc operations, which is a common class now. All right. And what I'll do next, inside this subtraction, I'm going to write extends abstract calc operations. Okay. Now there will be some error. Why? Because there's another concept in Java wherein you need to define these variables and you need to change their access modifier so that the child class can access it. So if I'm marking it as private, no one can access it. If I'm marking it as public, everyone can access it. But I don't want it to be completely hidden or completely exposed. So the middle way is protected, which is when I say protected, only the subclasses can now access it. So when you create a parent class, its access modifiers of variables as well as methods, it's always good thing to mark it them as protected. So when I say protected now, the result can, this result actually is pointing to this result. So what happened when this will be compiled, this subtraction class which you see here will have all the properties and methods available here. Okay. So when you create a method called as subtraction equal to sub equal to new subtraction, when you do that, it actually is the combination of this method and this method, right? So if you can notice, and I can do the same thing here. So I will just remove this as well from here, and I will do this part here. So you can now notice the amount of code I have reduced, right? Imagine you have different operations, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. You have these many methods available, operations or classes available, and everywhere you're making use of this, and you're not repeating or kind of duplicating this again and again. You are reusing this particular class to inside these subclasses. So I think now you're getting the benefit of why we need to use inheritance. And it's very simple to implement. What I've done is simply I identified what is common. I identified the pattern, what is common, and moved that common part into another class, placed it there, and gave the subclass its parent class using the keyword called as extends. As simple as that. This is what inheritance is. Of course, there's a lot more things to it, but to the simplistic explanation, this is what it is. And there's a very simple example of it, how you can implement inheritance. And the same logic appears everywhere. It's not something that this is simple example, so it looks simple. It's not like that. Wherever when you're doing something and you think something is actually common in multiple classes, remove it from there, place it in a common class and extend it. That's it. All right. So in this case, addition subtraction actually belongs to a class called as operations. And inside operations, you need to have these num2 result and see these methods which are common, and they can be made use or can be reused in subclasses subtraction and addition. Right. So all I'm doing is perform add operations here. And I think that is it. That is all I would have to do here. So if I go inside runner now, the same code will now work. Only problem here which I see right now is that this also looks cluttered, and I would now need to modify it to so that it looks simpler, right? So to do that, I will just try to do it quickly. So now right now I have to call set num and set num2 two methods. Why I am unnecessarily creating or unnecessarily calling these methods when it's imperative that I have to pass these values? So why I am actually calling the methods? Why can't I just pass these values the moment I create the object, right? So that brings me to a concept called as constructor, which we have to create. So when I go here, I'll create a constructor public addition, and I'll say int num1, int num2, and I will say super dot num1 is equal to num1, super dot num2 is equal to num2. I'll explain what this is. So I am trying to call a constructor, and this constructor is actually, this will be automatically called as soon as you write this. When you write this, it will be automatically called, and that's why it's giving error. It's saying I am being called, I have a constructor, and my constructor needs two values. Why don't you pass? Why are not you passing the values, right? So I need to pass the value. I'll say 2 comma 3, right? As soon as I do this, I have no need to write these two statements. So I have now reduced my code to a single line, and a single line is doing everything, right? So you're getting what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make my code better, more reusable, more structured, less cluttered, more maintainable, right? This is what basically you guys need to learn and excel. Now, guys, again, meeting is going to get over soon. I want to explain few more things. So please join another link. I'm going to send it to you. Please join that again. And that would be half less than 15, 20 minutes. Okay. So please bear with me for my next 20 minutes.